Vishnu. Shri Vishnu. Shri Vishnu.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam sarjamyaham. Everyone. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shriramyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam sirjamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shriramyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shridamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shridamyaham. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Hari Om. Namaste, everyone. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you today, this Sunday, speaking to you from the Vedic heartland, from the beautiful temple of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. We're coming to you live. We have, as always, our live congregation who are here. And of course, we have many, many people from throughout the world who are viewing in right now. So again, I welcome you and I thank you for being here very much. We're going to be giving a special talk today on truth, devotion, and spiritual practice, and how these three things are linked. And very specifically, once again, to no one's surprise, I'm sure, we're going to be looking at this wonderful scripture known as the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And we're going to be looking at several verses that are here that discuss precisely what I just said, how these three elements are linked and why this is of importance to us. So before we dive into the talk for today, then afterwards we'll have Q&A, we'll have questions and answers. First, I just want to say a few things, just to repeat a few things that I've said in the past, and that is, first and foremost, if you are a sincere spiritual seeker, please feel free to join our Discord server. It's the Dharma Nation Discord server. Someone will put the link in the chat right now if it's not there already. And I would invite you to join this. And again, only if you sincerely want to know about Sanatana Dharma. That's the only thing we discuss. We don't discuss other religions. We're not pan-Hindus. We're not radical universalists. We don't compare and contrast different religions. We speak exclusively about Sanatana Dharma. And while the conversations can indeed get to be very philosophical, which is not surprising, the real goal of everything that we do is to have people have a direct experience of God, to actually improve your lives in some way, even if it means just a little bit, even if it means quite a bit. That's the goal of everything that the ISDS does. That's the goal of these live streams that we do. That's the goal of our books. That's the goal of the Discord server as well. So again, if you want to come with some humility and sincerity and join our Discord server with the idea of improving your life through Sanatana Dharma and learning more about this truly ancient tradition, the most ancient spiritual tradition upon the face of the earth, please join us on there. So with that, let us dive now into the talk for today. Again, if people want to look in the description of this video, you'll see the verses that we're going to talk about today. There are only a few of them, I believe about 4 verses or so, something like that. They're all from the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And let's dive into these verses now. The first verse that we will begin with is chapter 30 and verse 33. And I'll read this to everyone, then I'll comment on the verse. Whoever worships me daily, or recites whatever is in praise of me, or contemplates me inwardly, all that effort contributes only to increase his devotion to me. So, very simple verse, seemingly simple, deceptively simple, as is the case with many of these verses. It seems like something that is very straightforward, but again, we're going to go very deeply into this. And first of all, just to remind people, the individual who is speaking here is Vishnu, exclusively. Vishnu. And indeed, if you look at the text of this scripture, including especially in the Sanskrit, you will see that it is specifically Vishnu who is speaking. He is speaking to Brahma, who is the highest of the demigods. Indeed, the person who Lord Vishnu himself puts in charge of creating a specific material universe. So this being the case, this is a very lofty conversation. This is not just a conversation between two individuals who, they kind of maybe sort of know something. This is God, and again, one of the highest living beings imaginable. So let's go through this now. So again, this is Lord Vishnu who is saying, whoever worships me daily. Let's stop with this. We'll do this clause by clause by clause. Whoever worships me daily. So first of all, what is meant by worship? It's interesting in much of modernity. Let's say modernity. It's not even a matter of Western versus so-called Eastern, which are two distinctions that we don't really make here. A lot of people like to talk about Eastern religion. Oh, this is a live stream on Eastern religion. We have to laugh and chuckle at that. No, this is eternal truth. In the same way that mathematics is not Western or Eastern. 1 + 1 = 2 in the West. But if you go beyond a certain border east, then it no longer applies. They come up with a different answer. No, this is eternal truth. This is eternal truth. But indeed, what worship means in modernity versus what it means traditionally are two very different things. What it means to worship is certainly to engage in ritual, and that can be everything from very simply, like what you saw a few moments ago, just offering a little bit of incense or a ghee wick lamp, to rituals that are so elaborate that they take, a few hours to do. But in any case, what it means to worship is indeed in a ritualized sort of way, to offer our homage to God, and in such a way that symbolically we are offering to God. Now, why do I say symbolically? Because God doesn't need the incense. He doesn't need whatever it is that we're offering. In actuality, of course, we are offering ourselves. So it is a practice. It is a sadhana, a spiritual practice. So whoever worships me, and then again, let's stop there. This is Vishnu who is speaking. So this is God. The form of worship that we're talking about here is the highest form of worship. Because the truth of the matter is that anyone and everyone can theoretically be worshipped. Indeed, some people worship their dogs. I see that all the time. Actually, some people worship their dogs, some people worship their pets, some people worship a celebrity. Some people worship a politician, worship this person, that person. And then, of course, there are a myriad of subtle beings who can be worshipped. Higher beings, subtle beings, some of who are evil, some of who are benevolent, etc. So when it comes to worship, this is a very general term. But this is not anyone who is speaking here. This is why I keep emphasizing this. This is Lord Vishnu who is speaking. In other words, God. So we're talking about the highest form of worship. So whoever worships me, i.e. God, daily. Now again, let's stop there. We're doing this one word at a time so far, which is fine. What is meant by daily? This means with regularity, so thus, consequently, as a sadhana. As a sadhana. Now, this is a word that I think the vast majority of our audience knows already. For those who do not, a sadhana is a systematic way of spiritual unfoldment. It's practice, practice, practice. That's what a sadhana is. And, there are different forms of sadhana, some more legitimate than others. We're not dealing with the illegitimate ones. We're dealing only with the legitimate ones. But when it comes to the idea of sadhana, this is something that has to be done on a regular basis. So again, a lot of people, and especially in true modernity, meaning, the last few decades, a lot of people have this idea that, spiritual practice is something that you just kind of do a little bit of. You go to a retreat for 2 weeks, or on your own, you decide, I'm going to do a practice for 30 days, and some person will guarantee you, yes, do my practice that I just sold to you, and you do this for 30 days and you'll have X result. No, that's not what's meant by sadhana. Sadhana is something that is done in a very long-term, very patient sort of way. So, daily. So whoever worships me daily, now let's go on, or recites whatever is in praise of me. Oh, this is extremely important as well. So for example, just again a short time ago, as we were doing the puja, we recited Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. We recited these 2 verses from the Bhagavad Gita. We know that throughout the Vedic scriptures, there are entire works, there are verses, there are passages, there are songs, there are prayers, all of which in a united voice praise God. So what is Lord Vishnu here saying? Or whoever recites whatever is in praise of me. This is another form of sadhana. So this is something that as yogis, as devotees, we are meant to do. We are meant to praise God, to praise the Lord. And who recites whatever is in praise of me. So again, there's some diversity there as far as what we choose to praise God. Now let's go on. Or contemplates me inwardly. Oh, this is extremely important. Or who contemplates me inwardly. The goal of life, one could say, both the goal of life, but then interestingly, the means of attaining that goal is to contemplate God within. This is why, interestingly, when you look at any legitimate religion, let's say, there is always some form of meditation, some form of contemplation, where the idea is that we withdraw from the outside world, even if just for a short period of time, again, as our practice, our daily practice. We withdraw from the world, we go deep within, and within we contemplate, i.e. we meditate upon God within. This is the central practice of Sanatana Dharma, to contemplate God within. So, or who contemplates me inwardly. And now let's go on. All that effort contributes only to increase his devotion to me. So very nice. So again, who is this who is speaking? This is God. This is Vishnu. So he's giving us an assurance that if we do these things, and of course only these things, no, this is shorthand. We know that he gives instructions all throughout the Vedic scriptures. So it's not just these things, but these things are indeed central. That is worship, reciting, praising God, and meditating upon God. These are 3 of the central things as far as sadhana. But there's more, but this is what we're focusing on for now. All of this effort of doing these things contributes to increasing one's devotion to God. So this is indeed how we increase that devotion. And devotion itself is the goal. Let me make this very, very clear. Because unfortunately there are many well-meaning people who are, let's say, hovering around the Vedic milieu, who will quote individuals who have posed themselves as gurus and teachers within the same milieu and who lived within the last 150 years or so. And some of them will say, and I've heard this myself, I've heard this directly from fake gurus. I mean directly, sitting in their audiences when I was very young. And they'll say that, oh, even devotion is just a raft to take you to the other side of the river. And then once you reach that other side, you leave the raft behind. First of all, what an ingrate. What ingratitude to even think in such a way. First of all of those out there, all of you who, you have been in the Vedic milieu for some time, whatever you call yourselves, non-dualists, whatever. You've heard this before. And this idea is, again, no more than roughly 150 years old, maybe slightly more by a decade or two, something like that. And what incredible arrogance and ingratitude. They say this also about the guru as well. That, the guru is, he's just your buddy and he's just there to kind of guide you in the right direction. And when you finally make it to the other side, you discard the guru, you discard bhakti, you discard this, discard that. I've even had some absolute fraudulent individuals say that, yes, even the scriptures, they're meaningless. If they help you get to the other side, good. But then at that point, you leave them behind. How absolutely terrible that people say such things. Well, when it comes to devotion as well, when we look at this last clause specifically, it's interesting, isn't it? How it doesn't list devotion as one of these mere elements of sadhana. It is, because we have to practice devotion as well. But in this last clause, it says very specifically that devotion is the goal. Let me read this to you again. All that effort contributes, and this is the word that is in the Sanskrit, only. Now let me go on. All that effort contributes only to increase his devotion to me. So thus, everything that was listed before, all these sadhana elements, they exist for one thing, one goal, and that is to increase our love and our devotion and our inherent connection with God. So bhakti, devotion, is the goal. It's also the means. It's also the means. And that's what makes it very unique. Now let's go on to the next verse that we're going to look at. The next verse, these are all in sequence. The next verse is chapter 30 and verse 34. Where devotion is absent, all effort, even though great, turns out to be only for worldly show, and brings no good result, either here in this life or the life hereafter. Now, this is a powerful verse. This is a powerful verse. The reason why is because it is extolling the virtues of bhakti, of devotion. But doing so, one could say, in the negative, explaining what does it mean if one does not have devotion. And in this way, you understand how important devotion is. It's kind of like, oh, you can have someone explain to you how important oxygen is. Or you can have someone explain to you, this is what happens if you don't have oxygen. And hearing that, oh, you get it. Oh, oxygen is important. Well, that's what Lord Vishnu is doing here. He's explaining what it means to not have devotion. So indeed, for those individuals throughout the 20th century, late 19th century, throughout the 20th century, and even up to the second, very sadly, who want to pretend that bhakti is, really of little importance. It's for the less intelligent individuals. It's for the less philosophically inclined individuals. Anyone who's been watching our live streams for a good amount of time knows that, just how untrue that is. That indeed, bhakti and philosophy go together perfectly. But for those individuals who like to say that, bhakti is of no importance, it's just a little tool, it's nothing, etc. Lord Vishnu is explaining what happens if you don't have devotion. So let's go through this. Where devotion is absent. And again, let's stop there for a second. It may seem like not much is being said with this verse. No, where devotion is absent, what does that mean? In every context, in any context where devotion is absent. Everything from the obvious, here is an atheist and his buddies, and there's no devotion there, obviously, all the way to someone who even is claiming to be spiritual. Someone who is even claiming to be either a spiritual seeker or a spiritual practitioner, and what to speak of individuals who claim to even be a spiritual teacher, God help us. For anyone, either atheistic or so-called spiritual, if devotion is not there in their life, if devotion is absent in their life, that's what this little clause is saying. It doesn't matter who you are and what you think you're practicing. If you are not practicing devotion, if that devotion is absent, now let's go on. What happens? All effort, thus, with those two words explaining what I just said. All effort, either on the part of a materialistic person or a spiritual person. All effort, even though great. There's so many little clauses here. I love clauses, as people know. This is a great verse because it's one long sentence of clauses. Even though great. So even though that effort might be great. So this is all set up. It's amazing. Lord Vishnu is saying all this with all these clauses in order to make this clear. So any little voices out there who want to protest, disagree, it's always astounding. Again, for me, for someone who's been practicing Sanatana Dharma consciously for 51 years now, so thus I know everything about the history of quote-unquote Hinduism, Vedic, this and that, yoga, this and that, etc. in America. Indeed, I've written extensively about it, and I've even studied it and presented papers on the history of this academically. For someone like me, it's always interesting how throughout my life, again, I will encounter people who they will claim, oh, I'm a follower of Swami so-and-so, and I practice this yoga. And what is fascinating is they will encounter clear verses stating the opposite of what their guru has taught them, and they'll just try to pretend that, oh, well, that's just Vishnu's opinion. That's just God's opinion. Let's go on to something else. No, don't want to hover on that. Oh, here's God's opinion. This is God's opinion. And if you claim that you're a yogi, if you claim that you are a follower of Sanatana Dharma, if you claim that you're a follower of Vedanta, etc., 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 then be still and listen to what God is telling you. And this is what he is saying. So even though great, any effort, even though it can be the greatest of efforts, materially or even spiritually, but where devotion is absent, now let's go on, turns out to be only for worldly show. That's the crux of the issue. Turns out to be only for worldly show. That is the crux of the issue. This is why people hear me talk about this endlessly, because people need to hear this message today. My message is not a New Age message of love, life, and light and laughter. Love, light, and laughter. Mine is a message in which I emphasize that if we are for real, if we are authentic, if we want to not play games, if we want to actually be individuals who are truly on a spiritual path, truly making incremental progress toward knowing ourselves, toward knowing God, then all that being the case, we need to be quiet and learn from the right source. And we need to practice, and practice in the right way, such that we're not wasting our time and wasting the time, especially of others. So again, this is what is interesting, is that this verse, of course, is confirming what I've told people for many times, for many, many years. Don't play games. You claim you're spiritual? Do you have your own YouTube channel with 200,000 individuals who are subscribers? And you claim you're a spiritual teacher, but you really don't know what you're doing. You really have little to no realization. You really are someone who you've read a lot of books. You yourself have gotten information from a lot of other YouTube channels. You just kind of watch them and jot down, oh yeah, I like the way this guy says this, the look in his eye, let me try to imitate that, etc., etc., etc. You're playing games. You're doing it for show. And Lord Vishnu himself is saying this here. Unless you have devotion, any effort that you make is for show. Now let's back up for a second and let's explain A, what devotion is, and B, why that is the case. Because it's one thing that Lord Vishnu has said this and that I've said this for all of my life. Why is it the case that if you don't have devotion, even if you claim to be a spiritual person, you're wasting your time and you're wasting other people's time? Why? Why is this the case? A, I'll start with global view, state what should be the obvious, and then get more specific. A, devotion is that which is inherent to our very Atman itself. The Atman, quote unquote, came into being. It didn't ever come into being, really. It's eternal. But let's say it's raison d'être, its reason for being. The Atman's reason for being is to express love, to express devotion. That being the case, if you claim you're a spiritual person and you claim that you want, at the very least, self-realization, realization of Atman, what does it mean to realize Atman and not even understand what is the inherent attributive nature of Atman, that is, to have devotion? That's the first thing. The second thing is the fruits of devotion are necessary for an individual to make spiritual progress. What are those fruits? As a result of devotion, you have humility. As a result of devotion, that is expressing love toward God, necessarily a person can't do that if they're puffed up. A person can't do that if they're egotistical. This is A, going somewhere, but it also makes something else arise. Therefore, those people who are egotistical are the people who downplay devotion. You see? But now let's get back on track. When we practice devotion, we then build within us those necessary qualities and attributes and characteristics such that now we can continue to make spiritual progress. Again, humility is one of them. Sincerity is another one of these. Openness. You see, it's fascinating how people who drone on and on about having an open mind tend to be the people who actually have the closest minds of all. Have you noticed this? New Age types. Have you noticed this? Many other categories of people who I will not mention. But the people who go on, oh, you should have a more open mind, tend to be the people who have minds that are buried in concrete. Rather, when you have devotion, that's when you have an open mind. Meaning that you have a mind, A, that functions well, and B, that is open to the teachings that you inherently in your soul truly need to make spiritual progress. I.e., your ego is reduced, your false ego is reduced to the point where, oh, now I can actually listen. Now I can actually listen to what I need, what my soul needs to hear. And on, and I can go on, but let's stop there for now. I want to finish this verse and then go on to the other verses. And brings no good result. Now we're still talking about the absence of devotion. And that brings no good result either here in this life or the life hereafter. So again, for individuals who are truly sincere, there is no way around this. This is Lord Vishnu himself explaining this to us. And in no uncertain terms. This is not something that's open to interpretation. This is not something that, oh, well, we can agree to disagree. No, this is God himself explaining how important devotion is. That without that devotion, there will be no good result. What does that mean? In any way. But especially spiritually. Here, in this life, or the life hereafter. In other words, it's guaranteed that in this life, if you are, let's leave the obvious people aside, the atheists, materialists, hedonists, etc., etc. Let's talk about just those people who would indeed claim to be spiritual. They kind of play around with it, but then they're not quite sincere. In this lifetime, they will not experience the results of having practiced spirituality. Not really. Not really. They may have some sort of intellectual realization, which is nice. It helps. But as far as inward realization, that will not be here. They will not grow spiritually. And then in the life hereafter, meaning, they won't achieve liberation. Not unless they introduce that crucial, all-important element of devotion toward God. Now, let's go on to the very next verse. And the next verse is verse 35. Again, we're going in sequential order. And Lord Vishnu continues, speaking of himself in the third person. Therefore, make your devotion grow by all possible effort. So increased, this devotion leads the devotee to the highest abode of Vishnu. So very nice. Therefore, so this is how the verse begins. So in other words, having now understood what I just said to you in the previous two verses, and this is a self-sustained unitary section of this work. But in actuality, the therefore really precedes everything that was said in the entire work. And we're at chapter 30. This is how we are to understand it. That Lord Vishnu is saying, therefore, everything that I have now explained to you in the totality of this book, of which we're in chapter 30 now understanding this, make your devotion grow by all possible effort. Very nice. Very nice. I've had the privilege, in some cases not really privilege, whatever is the opposite of a privilege, but I've had the opportunity to know many different kinds of people in the many decades that I've been on this planet so far. very good, very bad, people who are so lazy that it's hard for them to even get up from their couch and get a job, people, on the other hand, who have had nothing but success due to their own effort in this world. And I want to deal with the latter specifically, because that's what Vishnu is talking about. This is exactly what Vishnu is talking about. If you've ever met individuals in your life, or if you have not had that privilege, and it is a privilege, if you have not actually met them face to face, if you've at least heard about them, read about them, seen them on television, etc., that is individuals, I don't think it's too controversial to say, let's say someone like an Elon Musk, for example, someone who's worth $250 billion. If you meet someone like this who has had all success in their life, why is this the case? Because they live what this has said, that you grow by all possible effort. What does that mean? That means that in everything that God has gifted you with your physical body and the energy contained within, with your mind, with the sharp sword of your intellect, with your will, with everything, all the energies that you have contained within you, with your memories, with your thoughts, with your goals, with your ideas, with your stamina, with your refusal to give up, etc., etc., etc. This is what Lord Vishnu is saying, that, again, no games. The lazy path to enlightenment is nonsense. It's nonsense. The lazy path to enlightenment. There is no way around this. There is no way around this. In the same way that it's not unfair that if you take your hand and you put it in a flame, your hand will burn. That is nature. That is dharma. In the same way, if an individual wishes to have absolute success in this world, you work hard. To state it very simply, you work hard. And there is no unfairness about it. It's nature. It's nature. It's nature. Well, a lot of people do know this when it comes to having material success. Sadly, a lot of people don't, but a lot of people also do understand. I want to have success in this world. I want to own a home. I want to have a good job, a good education, on and on and on. What does that mean? Effort, 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 all possible effort. Well, sadly, when it comes to spirituality, this is where it begins to become a little bit wishy-washy. And you'll have all sorts of people try to pretend that, no, but spirituality is an exception. And again, you'll see the YouTube videos, you'll read the books, you'll see all sorts of places where people will say, yes, no, what, meditation, no, discipline, no, morality, that's meaningless, no, you just follow this little thing that I am trying to sell you, and you'll have full enlightenment. Nonsense. Again, we've looked at so many Vedic verses now, how many? Dozens, hundreds, where it says that no, you have to put in the effort, like everything else in life. There is no exception just because you want to be spiritual rather than be a billionaire. There is no exception because you want to be spiritual rather than get a PhD and MD. I've known a few people, they had a PhD and MD. In fact, one of them was one of my students in Madison who acquired an MD and then was working on her PhD, actually. You need to put in effort. This is true for spirituality as well. So this is what Lord Vishnu is saying here. Therefore, making your devotion grow. Make your devotion grow by all possible effort. Now let's go on. So increased, this devotion leads the devotee to the highest abode of Vishnu. So increased. So in other words, achieving continuous success on the spiritual path. Growing spiritually, having deeper realizations, having more peace, having more compassion, becoming as moral and as ethical and as good-hearted a person as you can. Not in a moralistic sense, but in an inherent sense that you're a person of nobility and virtue, etc., etc. As a result of this devotion that Lord Vishnu has been speaking of here, this bhakti, This is an amazing thing that he says. It leads the devotee to the highest abode of Vishnu, to Vaikuntha. So this is what God himself is saying to us, that this is the importance of devotion, that if we indeed practice devotion, that we will quite literally find ourselves in the kingdom of God. And now let's go on to this very last verse. And this is, again, chapter 30 and verse 36 now of the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. For the increase of that devotion, perception of truth is described as the cause. See me always as the truth, and devotion to me increases thereby. So it's very amazing and wonderful that this culminating verse is precisely what brings together the three things that we're talking about today: truth, devotion, and spiritual practice. And this is how we are to understand this. So first of all, truth itself is the cause of that increasing devotion. In fact, let me read this the way it's done, because it's actually the structure of the sentence very much matches the Sanskrit. Sanskrit sentence structure is very different from what we know of in English and many other European languages. And I like the way that this actually captures the Sanskrit construction very nicely. For the increase of that devotion. So in other words, for that bhakti to continually increase and for us to grow spiritually, perception of truth is described as the cause. So in other words, how does that grow? By perceiving truth. By perceiving truth. Now, when we look at this, again, one sentence, by perceiving truth, again, sadly for many of us, the New Age mind kind of kicks in and we think to ourselves, well, sure, okay, that makes sense. Yes, if I want truth, yes, truth is important. And truth is the goal, and truth is everything, and truth. But while that is true, speaking of truth, and while one could simply take this sentence and stop there, Lord Vishnu, being the source of all wisdom, it doesn't. He now explains what he means by truth, because what he means by truth is not merely the generic pedestrian New Age modern 2024 idea of truth. He's not merely talking about philosophy. He's not merely even talking about wisdom. He's not talking about ideas. He's not talking about something that applies to the intellect. This is what's amazing. He now explains what he means by that truth. See me always as the truth. Truth is not God, but God is truth. See me always as that truth. So in other words, in the previous sentence, when he's saying how, oh yes, truth itself is what causes the increase in bhakti. Again, for a pedestrian modern understanding, they would just think, oh, okay, if I read a lot more books, let me read some more poetry by Rumi, and then I'll have devotion, etc., etc. Let me read some more Deepak Chopra. Then I'll grow my devotion. That's not what Lord Vishnu is saying. He's not talking about something intellectual. He's saying take shelter of him, for he is the truth. He is the truth. So in this way, devotion is a closed circle. It is the means, it is the goal. It is the means, it is the goal. It is via truth that we grow our devotion to God. God is that truth by which we grow our devotion. Also that closed circle that is there. So this is the heart of practice. This is the heart of sadhana. This is the heart of what it means to not just think about spirituality, but to practice spirituality. Is to understand that building that devotion is everything. It is our practice, it is our goal, and more, it is God himself who blesses us to continue to build that devotion as we have that devotion unto him. This is what is being said here. So for the increase of that devotion, perception of truth is described as the cause. See me always as the truth. And then the last clause, and devotion to me increases thereby. So again, that closed circuit. Our goal is devotion. How do we achieve that goal? By expressing devotion. and increasing that devotion as much as possible. Very good. Wonderful. So with that, we're going to stop here with the formal talk, and I would like to see now if there are any questions from anyone. We don't have a lot of time. We might go on for about 10 minutes, roughly, maybe 15, of looking at people's questions. And again, if anyone has any, please feel free to ask. I see we have some wonderful people who are here in the audience so far. Arjuna, namaste. It's wonderful to see you. I hope you're doing well. We have Stilgar. We have quite a few people. Very good. I see some questions pouring in now. And again, I'll try to answer as many as I can with the time that we have. We endeavor, we try to end on the hour. It doesn't always work, but we try. Please give me a moment to look at these. Very good. Yes, here is a very nice question. It is Namaste Acharyaji. It's getting very difficult to perform sacrifice. Worthy natural sites are destroyed or access is restricted. At some point, can we just chant the Maha Mantra? Very good. Very good. Let me answer this, actually. First of all, let me start with the very end. To meditate upon the names of God, the names of Narayana, the names of Krishna. This is indeed the most effective means in this day and age for knowing God. It is to not just recite like a parrot, but to truly meditate with reverence and again with what? Devotion upon the names of God. So this is indeed very true. There are many verses within the Vedic scriptures that say this. Indeed, the International Sanatana Dharma Society also follows this as well. So thus our main practice is meditating upon the names of God in mantric form, mantras that are truly revealed in the Vedic scriptures. Of course, not just made up things, but mantras that contain the names of God in the Vedic scriptures. So this is true on the one hand. On the other hand, while this is the primary means for knowing God and for growing our bhakti and for growing spiritually, the International Sanatana Dharma Society also believes that while it is true that what you said is quite true, to do a lot of the traditional practices is more difficult these days and for a variety of reasons, we still have to endeavor to do them. Ramanuja himself, the great Acharya Ramanuja, tells us this again and again and again. He makes it quite clear, and there is no philosopher greater than Ramanuja. There is no Vaishnava greater than Ramanuja. But he also tells us, while yes, bhakti and prapatti are the most important things, we still are to practice mimamsa, for example. We are to practice ritual. We are to practice puja. We are to practice all of the rituals that are there in the Pancharatra literature. We also are to practice yoga. No, not modern yoga, but traditional Vaishnava yoga, as taught by Patanjali, etc., etc., etc. We still have to follow the yamas and niyamas, all of the regulative principles, not just 4, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of moral principles that are there in the Vedic scriptures. So while it is true that some of these things are more difficult in this day and age, they can be done. And they should be practiced. However, the foundation of our practice should be reciting the holy name of God, the names of Krishna. Absolutely. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Here is a very nice, heartfelt question. Namaste, Sri Acharyaji, my humble thanks to you. Thank you for being here. How do I develop the feeling of devotion in my practice and life after having for many years kept a metaphorical shield over my heart, so to speak? Very good. Excellent question. And let me tell you, I've had similar questions many times before, because you're not alone. There are many individuals for whom the idea of just inwardly letting go and just expressing complete devotion to God, it's difficult for some people, even very sincere individuals. It can be quite difficult. And again, I try not to use names, but you who just asked this question, I know who you are, and I know that you're someone who is extremely fearless. But at the same time, I'm going to say this to you and to anyone who would ask a similar question. Of course, why is there a shield? Why does an individual have a shield of any kind? A real shield. A shield around their home, in the form of, alarm systems, etc., etc. Why do individuals have a shield around their heart? It's to protect yourself. And it's a type of fear. It's a type of fear, but it's a fear in the form of wanting to protect yourself from harm and from hurt. You see, even the greatest, most bravest warrior can be someone who you still feel that, all right, I'm protected outwardly. Oh, no one's going to mess with me. Oh, yeah, okay, my body is safe, my family is safe, my home is safe, etc., etc. But then when it comes to very deep within, in that place that no one else can look other than you and God, there is still that idea that I have to, quote unquote, protect that. And of course, when we hear this in these terms, especially, what does this mean? Because we're talking about opening our heart in such a way that we can have devotion to God. So of course that begs the question, what are we protecting ourselves from? Well, that can be answered in many ways, and I'm not going to go through them all. But let me say that there are many reasons why an individual comes to that point where they are courageous in everything else that they do. Oh, they're strong, they're intelligent, etc. But then when it comes to that final inward motion of surrendering our lives to God in such a way that it is so deep within us, it's quite literally our soul surrendering at the feet of that super soul, of that Paramatman, of that which is the soul of our soul. That is the last stumbling block, where we need to overcome the fear that anything bad can happen. Even if we're extremely sincere and humble, again, this is the last obstacle. There are great yogis, and you see this in the scriptures actually. There have been great yogis. Oh, when I say yogis, I mean yogis. I mean individuals who, my Lord, they can levitate. They are yogis. And yet, in the Vedic scriptures, it will explain that they still have that little bit of fear of expressing devotion. But then they do. For one reason or another, God's grace comes upon them. A great sage like Narada appears before them and helps them to get over that last little hurdle. So that's what it is. It's that last little hurdle. And what is required, the inner work that is required in order to get past that last hurdle, is indeed something that is so subtle that it's a little bit difficult to explain, but at the same time, we can understand it, at least theoretically. We need to have absolute faith and trust in God. You see, why do we think that even with God, I need that little bit of protection, I've given 90%, 95% of myself over to God in surrender, but that little bit I need to keep to myself. Why do we have that illusion? It's because we don't understand precisely who this is who we are expressing devotion toward. Not 100%. And when we come to that realization that we can hear it, but no, it has to be a realization. Who is this who we are surrendering to? We can hear it. We may have heard it for so long. We may have read Krishna book and said, wow, that's the Supreme Personality. It really is. It really is. But still, no, it needs to come to the point where we understand God so well that we eventually develop that faith and that trust. Oh, in 2024 especially, it's almost impossible for any one human being to have trust toward anyone else. Other humans, gods, even God. It's difficult. But we need to develop that trust. How do we develop that trust? By knowing that person. So the way that that shield will be removed is by truly trusting God and having absolute faith in God. How do you do that? By knowing God more and more and more. What does that mean? Quite literally, understand God's attributes. Understand what is God's nature. Understand everything that there is to understand, and all of this in conjunction with continuing to practice, to practice, to practice. So again, this is the conclusion of my answer to your question. This is why, again, we say that bhakti, devotion, is both the practice and the means. It is the artha and the upaya. It is the goal, and it is also the practice, the means. It is both. It is what we wish to achieve, and it is how we achieve it. Devotion, devotion, devotion. So this is why, and this is what makes what we do in the ISDS something real. Oh, I don't have a formula for you. There's no magic mantra. There's no anything that's going to change this for you in a minute. It's practice. Continue to practice, and eventually your faith deepens, and that shield will disappear. And it will disappear because you'll realize that the shield itself was always an illusion anyway. There's nothing truly in between you and God but the illusion that there is. So I hope that answers your question. Very good. Here's another nice question, and I can answer this somewhat quickly. It is, Namaste Shri Acharyaji. I want to ask, what does it mean when in a dream you read a divine name? What it means is that you're making spiritual progress. I've answered questions like this many, many times. People will ask me, for example, what does it mean when in a dream you have a quote-unquote dream about your guru or some great guru from the past? What if you dream about some truly exalted god or goddess? What if you even dream about Krishna, for example? Well, the same applies to this as well. If you have a dream in which you are reading the name of God, that is God communicating with you. That is God communicating with you. It is an all-auspicious event when this occurs. Indeed, many of our devotees will have experiences like this in dream state. I've had myriad experiences like this in dream state. And when such a thing happens, it means that something of divine nature is being communicated to you. And even if at the time when, let's say, you wake up or during the dream, you don't quite understand exactly what's being communicated to you, that's all right. Part of the surrender is that you simply have appreciation that it has been communicated. And you wait for the full realization to come to you. In the meantime, you have gratitude that you had such a profound spiritual dream. So I hope that answers the question. Good. We're going to end somewhat soon because, like I said, I do want to end somewhat close to the hour. Very good. Here's another nice question. Namaste Shri Acharyaji. If a devotee does not yet have direct access to a guru, is there a way for him to know the will of God for his life? That's a very nice question, actually. And it's a very legitimate question because we know that true gurus, authentic gurus, individuals who are qualified both inwardly and as far as their knowledge, etc., are very difficult to come about. They're very difficult to find. And this is something I've tried to make clear to people. Individuals who think that, any Vedic temple you visit, any Hindu temple you visit, there's going to be a guru inside, or there are gurus on every block, or every nation has gurus, etc. It's just a matter of, here are 500 gurus before me. Which one do I mesh with the most? No. If you have the ability to encounter one true guru in the totality of your lifespan, you have been blessed. True gurus are very difficult to come about these days. Very, very difficult to find. So the question that you're asking is quite legitimate, actually. And let me read this again to remind people. If a devotee does not yet have direct access to a guru, is there a way for him to know the will of God for his life? It is necessary to have a guru in order to advance spiritually. It is necessary to have a guru. Now, all that being said, we've all heard this pithy saying, which is true nonetheless, despite its pithiness. It is true that when we are ready, the guru will come to us. Now, of course, what does that mean? Oh, it doesn't mean in the literal sense, Oh, I'm finally ready and I'm here in my bathtub and whoa, a guru just appeared in my bathroom. No, of course, that's silly. When we're ready, the guru will appear to us can mean many, many different things. More likely than not, it means that we will go to that person. The guru does not have to do the labor of coming to us. He's doing us a favor. We're not doing him a favor. So more likely than not, we have to go and find the person. And let me be blunt about this. This is 2024 in this day and age. Of course, even if we are physically removed from an authentic guru, we still have ways of accessing that person. We have Skype, we have Zoom, we have Discord, we have so many ways. We have what we're doing right now. And that is that there are people all throughout the world. Indeed, I recognize many of the names here, and I know that they are throughout Europe, Australia, many different places, some in India, who are watching right now. Via technology, we have the ability to also communicate with the guru. So what I'm saying is this, that when the individual is truly ready, and it's up to them to take the first step. Again, they can't be passive and think that, like I said jokingly a little while ago, a guru will just pop into existence in their bathroom as they're taking a bath. No. They need to do the requisite activities such that they bring themselves to the guru. Today, even if that means something like this, they make themselves watch a live stream and then they join the Discord server, etc., etc. And it comes to the point where in time they will have access to that guru, if they're sincere. So this is the answer, is that yes, please don't give up. There are ways in which you can have guidance. So with that, maybe let me see if I can answer one more question very quickly. And if not, then we'll go on. Very nice. I see a lot of wonderful comments giving thanks for the answers. Very good. Good. Well, maybe why don't we stop here for now, because at this point it's almost 10 minutes past the hour. And like I said, I do want to try to end within an hour or so. But before we leave, again, I want to thank all of you for being here, both all of our people here in our congregation. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in from, again, throughout the world, but more, the many thousands of people who will see this video once it's available as a recording. Because with live streams, of course, there are a certain number of people who are there live. The vast majority are not. They see the video a day after, a week after, a month, a year after, etc. So I want to thank you all for being here. Something I have not done in quite some time, and I sadly always forget to do this, and that is I want to thank our moderators. You know, we are blessed with a team both here on YouTube, on Discord, on many places where we have a presence on social media. And not all the same people. We have teams of moderators who are incomparable, who are absolute expert at what they do, and who keep the chats both here and then again everywhere civil and productive in every way. So I want to thank our moderators. I want to thank all of our volunteers. Lord Almighty knows we have so many volunteers now throughout the world. I think I've said this. Right now our problem is not so much needing more volunteers. If anything, it's organizing them all. Because we have so many people who have helped behind the scenes. If I were to begin to give a list of their names and specifically how they help, we'd be here for another hour. But I want to thank all of our volunteers. And with that, again, please join our Discord server if and only if you are very sincere and humble and you want to learn not about perennialism, not about Neoplatonism, not about Greco-Roman religion in comparison to Eastern religion or Hinduism or anything like that. That's not what we're here for. If you want to deepen your experience of God, please join our Discord server. And when you come there, you will see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ISDS devotees who are there around the clock, literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, engaging in conversation and helping each other to grow spiritually. Also visit our website, dharmacentral.com. And when you're there, please feel free to look at our books that are available. We have quite a few books. You can become a member of the ISDS. You can give a one-time donation, etc. And with that, we will indeed join you again next Sunday. Thank you for being here. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Victory to Sanatana Dharma. Evam Bhavatu. May it be so. And so it shall be. The year 2024 is soon coming upon its completion, very soon, within weeks, within months. As I've promised you for years now, and as I've said throughout this year, increasingly we are seeing and will continue to see crazy, crazy things being revealed that will only increase. But God is protecting us, God is protecting us, God is protecting us. Between now and the next time that we get together, I ask you all, in every way that you can, please take very good care of yourselves, and above all, to keep in mind the words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Ma Shuchaha, do not fear. Do not fear. Do not fear.